If you're looking at a 40-inch box and pan brake, you're probably trying to decide whether this Baileigh BB4012F is the right tool for your shop or if you're about to overbuy for what you actually need. The specs sound solid: 12-gauge mild steel capacity, a stop rod for repeatable bends, and 11 hardened fingers for different box sizes. But the real question isn't what it can do on paper, it's whether it fits your workflow, your budget, and your daily workload. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Most small fabricators start with a box and pan brake because they need to make trays, enclosures, or simple ductwork without outsourcing every bend. If that's you, this machine gives you a 40-inch working length, which is enough for most small panels but not so large that it becomes a space hog. The stop rod is the feature that actually saves time here. Once you set your bend depth, you can flip the sheet and make the same bend over and over without measuring each time. That's the kind of thing that turns a 2-minute job into a 30-second one when you're doing production runs. The hardened bending die is another practical detail. Cheaper brakes often use softer tooling that wears out or mushrooms over time, especially when you're bending stainless or thicker mild steel. With this one, the die is hardened, so it should hold up under regular use. The blade gap adjustment is straightforward too. You set it once for the gauge you're working with, and then you're not constantly tweaking it between jobs. That's the kind of thing that matters when you're in the middle of a project and just want the tool to work. The foot-controlled clamp is where this brake really stands out for hands-free operation. You position the sheet, press the pedal, and the clamp locks down while your hands stay free to guide the metal. That's not just convenient, it's safer and more precise than wrestling with a manual clamp when you're bending something long or awkward. The spring-loaded cylinder helps lift the apron too, so you're not fighting the weight of the tool every time you make a bend. That's a small thing, but when you're doing dozens of bends in a day, it adds up. Now, the fingers. You get 11 hardened fingers in different widths, which lets you create boxes and pans in various sizes without swapping tooling constantly. That's useful if you're making different-sized enclosures or trays, but it's not a magic bullet. If you're only ever bending one size, you might not need all of them, and storing the extra fingers takes up space. Also, while the fingers are hardened, they're not replaceable in the sense that you can just pop in a new one if one gets damaged. If you bend sharp edges or use the brake aggressively, you might wear them down over time. Where this brake starts to show its limits is in thickness and angle. It handles 12-gauge mild steel just fine, and even 16-gauge stainless, but if you're working with anything thicker, you'll hit the ceiling fast. And while it bends up to 135 degrees, that's not the same as a full 180-degree bend. If you need tight corners or deep bends, you might need to do some springback compensation or even a secondary operation. That's not a deal breaker, but it's something to plan for if your designs rely on sharp, precise angles. Another thing to consider is the setup. This isn't a benchtop tool, it's a floor-standing brake, so you'll need space for it. If your shop is already tight, a 40-inch brake might feel like overkill, or worse, it might become a permanent obstacle. The weight isn't trivial either, so moving it around isn't something you'll do casually. If you're a hobbyist or a one-person operation, think about whether you'll actually use it enough to justify the footprint. Who should buy this brake? If you're a small fabricator, a hobbyist with serious sheet metal projects, or a shop that needs repeatable bends without constant measuring, this is a solid choice. The stop rod, foot clamp, and hardened tooling make it practical for production work, and the 40-inch length covers most small to medium panels. If you're only bending thin material or making occasional bends, you might get by with something smaller and cheaper. Who should skip it? If you're mostly working with thin sheet metal under 18 gauge, or if your bends are simple and infrequent, a lighter-duty brake could do the job just as well. If you need to bend thicker material regularly, or if you're making large panels that require a longer brake, this 40-inch model might not be enough. And if your shop space is limited, the size and weight of this tool could be a deal-breaker. The value here comes from the combination of repeatability, hands-free clamping, and durable tooling. It's not the cheapest brake out there, but